Can you see the keep here?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So basically, we're talking about now you've reached the end of your thesis process. You've finished writing it. You've met with your committee. You've defended the thesis, and now this third step is the final step. It's getting it promoted, put up into the keep, published, and it completes your graduation requirements. So the main thing that we'll start out with, I'm actually going to back up a little bit, start at Eastern Illinois University. You all are familiar with this site. You use this a lot, right? So basically, I want to show you how you get to the keep. You start out with the library site. So you go up here to the library link. You can see my cursor there. And you just click on that. And on the library site here, what you'll notice is under resources is the keep, which is right here. And so you click into the keep, come into this website. Now, as you're looking at our institutional repository, the keep, over here on the left, you'll see graduate students deposit your thesis. So this is a quick jump in to doing this process. And I'm going to jump into it. I'll show you what's involved with that. And then I'll also kind of back out a little bit because I want to talk to you about some other things related to depositing your thesis. So we'll click on deposit your thesis. It's going to ask for your EIU net ID. So you just put in your net ID here. So I'm going to do that. Typing in, hopefully not mistyping because I tend to do that. And then click I'm not a robot. And so it's going to say, okay, where do you see bridges here? Okay, I see bridges there, there, and there. And I'm going to click verify. And then just click log in. And it takes you immediately into this page, which is your actual deposit page. Now, one thing that I want to show you is over here on the left, there's these resources, which are things you've probably already looked at, the thesis manual, human subjects guidelines, animal subjects guidelines, if you're doing that. To submit the thesis, there's three things you're looking at. The submission guidelines, the thesis upload fee form, and then the submit thesis, which is this page here, right here. There's also a fourth thing, which is optional, which is order personal copies. And that's where you can basically say, my parents want a copy of my thesis, my grandparents want a copy of it. This is the site where you would order those things. Okay, so this is where I'm going to back out a little bit and talk about some of these other things. So first of all, if you click submission guidelines, you go to this page here, and this is going to take you through step by step exactly what we're talking about here in this webinar. It's going to say, here's the steps to do it. You need to pay the upload fee. You need to sign in with your net ID. Here's the information you're going to need from your thesis to fill in the form, and all of this. And then basically, if you have any questions, there's a link at the bottom to contacting the graduate school for any particular questions you might have. The pay the thesis upload fee, the second link, if you click on that, you go to this site, and it's pretty basic. You fill in your name, EIU ID number, all this information, click add to basket. It's a $25 fee, and then you just pay that. So, okay, so backing up again. Ordering personal copies, this goes to a site that's called Thesis on Demand. So this site, you can look at the cover options, the printing and paper options. They have a quick calculator here so you can figure out like how much is it going to cost you per copy to have your thesis printed. And then you could just click the order now. And the thing about the order now, all of this information they want you to fill in, the author, thesis title, degree year, all of that, you want it to be very similar to what you had deposited in the keep. Okay, just keep that in mind. Okay, so going back to the keep. Now, the submit thesis form. We start out here. There's a couple of things that you're checking off to say, yes, I have done this. One is paying the $25 upload fee. So once you pay that, you check, yes, I did that. The other thing is, yeah, I looked at this submission notice. I know what I'm supposed to be doing here. The rest of this is so straightforward. It's really just a case of being very careful that you aren't mistyping or you aren't taking like some kind of a alternate like shortcuts, like with your name or something. That's just to be consistent. So for example, here, let's say this was the title of my thesis, is title of my thesis. So you just type that in. Your name should already be here because you logged in with your net ID. Now, if your name is different on the thesis, there's a little edit icon to the right here, and you can click that. You have the opportunity to change your first or middle or last name. Okay. Your E number goes in here, and that's important because that's how we eventually verify with the graduate school that you did deposit your thesis. And you might wonder why we're asking your birth date. And the reason why we're asking your birth date is because if you have a common name, like John Smith, for example, and there's like 4 John Smiths that deposited theses into EIU, this is how we differentiate which one you are. So, so basically, let's say I'm putting in my E number, and then I'm putting in my birth date, March 10th, and wow, I wish I was this young. And then the rest of it is very simple. It's all drop-down menus. And you still fill in a few things, but for example, let's say I'm doing political science. And is that, Hattie, is that an MA or MS for political science?
Mine is an MA.
MA, okay, so put an MA, and then that is the Department of Political Science. So you see, I'm choosing all of these from the drop-down, right? And then you get to your semester of degree completion, spring 2022. And then here's where you're going to be typing more in. You're going to be typing in your thesis director. So I'm going to say my thesis director is Jane Smith, and my second committee member is John Doe. And then my third one is Walter Smitty. And in some cases, you might have a 4th or a 5th, and then you can add those if you want. Everyone has at least 3, that's why those are required. And then we keep scrolling down. Now here's the embargo period, and this is kind of an interesting thing. What embargo means is that when your thesis is uploaded into the Keep, for this period of time that it's embargoed, no one can get to the full text of it. They can see the metadata, they can see your name, the title, your abstract. They can't actually get to the full text if you don't want them to. And you have the option of having a 1-year embargo or a 2-year embargo. Most students don't do any embargo at all. They want people to get to their theses from the start. But sometimes you might be working with your professor to publish, or you might be working on a grant or something like that. If that's the case, you want the time to do that. So then you would say pick a, for example, 2-year embargo from the dropdown. Then we get into some optional areas. So keywords here. So for example, let's say I was doing psychological research on cognitive dissonance. I might type that in. Maybe it has something to do with families. I might type that in. These are all just basically coming from your own work. So it's what you would know. Then you get into the subject categories here. Now here's where students might get a little bit confused, like how do I find where, political science is or psychology or what have you. You can click here, which will give you a list of the full list of disciplines in case you need to look through the list and find them. So we're going to be looking for political science. So I'm going to scroll down. There it is. I just click on it and click select. And now I have my subject category. Here is where you would just copy and paste your abstract in from your thesis. And then finally, we're getting to the bottom here where you would click upload, choose file. You'll go to your computer. You'll find the thesis document PDF, and then you will upload it. At the very bottom, there's a couple of additional things. If you have additional files like images or something like that, you would click this little box. It takes you to another screen where you can add those files. If you have streaming media associated with your thesis that's available on the website somewhere, you can put that link in here, and then you would say what kind of streaming media it is. And then at the very bottom, once you've done all that, you click submit. Once you've clicked submit, then what happens is that I get an email saying that you had deposited your thesis. I will send emails out to your thesis director and to our cataloging librarian. Those two people get a notice. Your thesis director comes in, they look at your thesis, they're like, yes, this is what we agreed to. And they basically send me a short report saying, yes, accept the thesis. The cataloging librarian looks at your metadata. They say, yeah, that all looks really good. And they send me a little report saying, yes, accept the thesis. Once I get those two acceptance pieces, then I approve the thesis and you'll get two emails. One will say your thesis has been approved and added to the keep. The second follow-up email will say, we are verifying that this is your e-number. The e-number verification email is what we use to then forward to the graduate school. So the graduate school completes the process and says, okay, you have met all the requirements and you are graduated. So that is kind of the basic gist of it. So do either of you have any questions about how that works?
I just have a quick question. So we should pay the fee before we upload it. Is there like a time frame, like between paying and uploading it, or like
no, not really. No.
Okay.
The only thing, yeah, I'm sorry. The only thing about the paying the upload fee is that I can't approve it for publication until I get a notice that that fee has been paid, which I get basically as soon as you pay it. So that's not really a problem.
Okay.
So what do you think? Does that seem fairly straightforward to both of you? Do you have any questions about it?
Will I'm sorry. Well, I was just gonna ask, will the thesis advisor kind of say, okay, it's done, it's ready to be published or submitted?
Yeah, that should happen at your defense.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So basically you meet with your committee. They say, okay, make these few revisions maybe, and then you make the revisions and then your director says, okay, that looks good. At that point, then there's no question. And then it gets uploaded to the keep at that point. Hattie, did you have a question?
Yeah, that was what my question was going to be.
Okay, all right. So, like I
And
said, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's generally done when? Like the last week of classes, finals week, like when it needs to be. I know it's after your defense, but I know people's defenses vary when they do that.
In that case, what you want to do is you want to check with the graduate school on what is the deadline for spring 2022 graduation. The main thing in my experience has been giving your thesis director time to respond to my email saying, hey, take a look at this. They have 3 days to respond when they get the email saying, you need to take a look at this. You have 3 days to do it. But sometimes faculty members are, they could be in Egypt, for example, or somewhere. So given that, I would probably try to upload it like say maybe 4 or 5 days before that deadline. But I'm pretty good about getting on the faculty to say, hey, you need to approve this. And I work with the graduate school on that too, so. Okay, any other questions about that process?
Is there a requirement for a paper copy at the library?
There is not, no.
No, okay, it's all just on the keep.
It's all on the keep, yes.
Okay.
Yep, so that saves you actually quite a bit of money because you don't have to, when you used to have to do a print copy, it had to be like a certain type of paper, you had to format it a certain way. All of that has essentially gone away. So that's a pretty good thing. Did you have any questions about personal copies or anything like that?
I don't think so.
No, my question that I just thought of now is, do capstones get submitted to the thesis as well?
They don't get it. Yeah, they don't get it submitted to the thesis part of the keep, but they do get submitted under different departments. They have like capstone project collections and senior paper collections, which are pretty cool. So that's a way to get that student content out there, but they don't get submitted to this part, no.
Okay.
Okay, should I stop sharing the screen now?
It's fine.
Okay, all right, so here we are again. So thanks again. It's very direct, it's very simple. So I hope that this was helpful for both of you. If you do have any additional questions, by all means, please reach out to me. My email is TABRUNS, that's Todd Bruns, @eiu.edu. Or you can email the Keep, which is THEKEEP @eiu.edu. Those emails come to me as well. Either way, if you have any questions about this process, or if you, for some reason, have any snags when you're trying to upload or something, by all means, reach out. I'll be happy to help you out. Okay, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
All right.